I think just because I'd been there, done that, got the t-shirt, got burned, owed thousands of dollars to the government. I was like, how did this happen? I should be able to do better. I know the numbers. This is what happened. It can happen. It can happen to anybody. It can happen to you. It can happen to me. And I knew better. I knew better, and it still happened.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today we kick off the first of a two-part series with Lynn Gagne-Webb, founder of Custom Bookkeeping and Consulting. In part one, Lynn shares her journey from corporate to entrepreneurship, the lessons she learned running and selling a successful firm, and how staying connected to her numbers and her purpose shaped her business and culture. Let's get to that conversation right now. Lynn Webb, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
It's great to have you, and looking forward to having our listener get to know you. And let's maybe start there with, how did you end up doing what you're doing today?
Awesome. This is such a great industry. It's so dynamic. But just to sort of give you a bit of a history, years ago, and I mean years ago, I decided I wanted to be an accountant, went to school, right? And I kind of got about halfway through the education for accounting, and I thought, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. But I was already working in the corporate world in a good job where I was using those skills. Went back to school to become a computer programmer, and I did about a year of that, and I said, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. And then I returned back to the accounting education. So I feel like I've been doing this forever. Numbers are my jam. They always, it's just simply resonated with me. But what I really realized, I think, is that as opposed to accounting and becoming an accountant, what I really realized what I was good at was the operation, being in the trenches of the business and applying numbers to the business. So that's really where I kept my focus for the long, and I still do. I love hearing about customers' experiences and what they're doing to become a business, right? And how those numbers can really tell that story. So a bit of background is it's always been my jam. Kind of did education a couple times over, and for both computer programming and accounting, and here we are.
Yeah, well, the computer programming and accounting both have numbers. Less numbers
right.
with the computer programming. It's all ones and zeros. But you got to put them all together correctly, otherwise it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. So you in your business website, you have a very big focus on a vision for supporting business owners. Where does that come from?
I did a video on this, which you probably are talking about, is on the front page of the website. And I think when I first got into business, when I decided to step away from the corporate world and open my own bookkeeping firm, and life had kind of brought me there. So I was in the process of adopting a child, and I had a child, and I was a single mom, and all those things. And being in numbers allowed me the freedom to be able to really look after my family and do this business at the same time. So I went into business, but what I very, very quickly learned was that you're on your own as a business owner. You're trying to figure out, there's no course that anybody gives you to tell you how to do a business owner. CRA is not saying this is what you should do, or, the IRS, they're not contacting you saying, hey, don't forget to do this and this and this. You really have to figure it out. And when I did own a large firm, which I did sell, but I had that for 10 years. And in those 10 years, you see hundreds of businesses going through. And the ones that are hurt the worst are the small ones, because they just don't know. They don't know what they don't know, and they just keep going through and doing their widget. and they get in such trouble. So when you're doing the books or you're doing the taxes, and you just like, it's heartbreaking to say, you owe $30,000 of taxes to the government, and how do you do that? So I don't know, it just really hit a soft point for me. And I can do the corporate stuff, and I still have some large customers, but my passion really lies on those little guys that are just trying to get successful. And I think I bring an element, right? Because it's so passion driven. It's like, oh, we can help you kind of get there by using your numbers and helping you understand what your business really does need. I don't know. It was just, I think just because I'd been there, done that, got the t-shirt, got burned, owed thousands of dollars to the government. I was like, how did this happen? I should be able to do better. I know the numbers. And in the end, I too was in a place of trouble. So yeah. And I did a video on that. That's on the front of the website. It just really talks about this is what happened. It can happen. It can happen to anybody. It can happen to you. It can happen to me. And I knew better. I knew better, and it still happened.
What is it that, when you're looking back on that, we all know better? For you, what was it for you? Was there something that you identified that had you get to that situation?
Yeah. I was so busy trying to get customers and trying to do the best for them. And I wanted to offer, I'm going to offer this, and I'm going to offer this, and I'm going to offer this, and they're going to be so good, and they're going to love it. And I'm going to be the best bookkeeping firm in town. And I did grow with that mentality, but then what happened was I forgot to take my time and look at my numbers and what I was doing. And I got caught up in the excitement of my widget, which just happened to be bookkeeping, but I got caught up in the excitement of other people's stories. And there's no risk for me, right? I mean, if I'm telling them, hey, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, and they're in trouble owing tax money, there's no risk for me in that. And it was exciting helping people. But you get caught up, I think, in the excitement of the widget, and you don't stop and say, all right, where am I actually making my money? Where am I trending? Are my bills getting paid? And asking yourself those kind of high-level CEO questions that you would offer a business. And even though you're small, or maybe you have 5 employees or 10 employees, you still have to ask those questions. And that's a hard day. And quite frankly, it's a boring day when I take my CEO days and I turn out the world and I'm like, today I'm just going to look at my business. And that's a huge lesson that I learned. When you have staff going on and people's paychecks and customers coming and going and networking you're doing, there's always something more interesting to do than look at your own books. But if you don't do it, it's kind of that's how I ended up in trouble anyway.
Okay, very good. Well, it's a very interesting one. And it's not the first time I've heard that, having a bookkeeping business doesn't necessarily mean you should be doing your own bookkeeping.
That's true.
You can't, just because you're a bookkeeper doesn't mean you've somehow escaped being a human being.
Yeah.
And when there's numbers involved and it's your money and it's not the reason you got into business to do your own bookkeeping. Well, maybe for some people, but for you, we've identified that it's the same reason you need a bookkeeper is the same reason all your clients need a bookkeeper, really, which is kind of interesting. And it's a weird one. However, we know that there is a saying, I'm sure everyone's heard this, and, it probably fingers down the chalkboard type of a saying, but the plumber's taps always leak.
Yeah.
Right? These sayings stick because there's truth, right? There's truth in that. And I've met many, 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 many bookkeepers who it was almost either a story like yours or it was a liberation where, maybe they didn't get into a mess, but it was a liberation of like, I can't believe how much more good this feels than having, being on the clock for doing the books or getting caught up or whatever. It's like, you do that all day. When you think about it, you do it all day for everyone else. You get a sense of value from that. And then all of a sudden you got to turn around and do it for yourself. That's probably the last thing anybody would want to do. I mean, it's why the plumber says, the plumber doesn't want to come home and fix their sink.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I agree. And you know what? Let's be clear. I don't do my own books, right? I review the numbers that someone else did, but I don't do my own books. I think one of the most enlightening things that I ever realized in this industry when I had staff was bookkeepers come on a scale. There's bookkeepers that like the detail, and there's bookkeepers that like the problems, and they like to do the problem solving. It is very, very rare, I think, that you find anybody on both. You're going to be one or the other. I hire people that like the detail because I myself, I love the problems. I'm a problem solver. I like to be out there. I like the shiny widget. I like ooh, let's fix this. But once it's fixed and it falls into just work, I'm bored. So when I realized that many, many years ago, that was the day that I said, I'm not doing my own bookkeeping because I know I can't hold my attention long enough, and I don't want to do that to myself or my customers, quite frankly. But yeah, you're totally right. Like this plumber's taps never work ever.
That's right.
They
And the
don't.
two people that you mentioned, there might be someone who's spending all that time working on my books are perfect, but you're not doing the stuff that
That's
in another
right.
part of the business. And there's probably, well, we would know that there's three. Well, if we talk about E-Myth that Michael Gerber wrote, he talked about the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Entrepreneur is the
Great
visionary.
book.
The manager is the person that looks at the whole business and plans and strategy and execution. And then there's the technician doing the work,
Yeah.
building the widget, making the widget happen. And you're going to have, it's not like there's one or the other, and it's always going to be kind of this weird mix that a person makes up. But if you lean to any particular one, it's going to have consequences. Like the entrepreneur, all of the clients that you have are going to probably lean a little bit more to the entrepreneurial visionary. Not to say that's always the case, but for sure, someone that's going into business would have maybe a bent to that, and maybe the technician and entrepreneur mixed together. And all of these different combinations of where people are strong output a certain outcome. My growth of my business is great, but I don't manage my finances, get out of control. Or everything's perfect, but our growth is stagnant because we're not focusing on other things. So it's knowing your customer, it's knowing yourself about where you want to spend your time and looking at, hey, sooner than later, I think that's the message in your story, is sooner than later, this is not something I want to do, and get to it earlier. Like if we were sitting with a client and we could go back in time, those the cleanup jobs, if you could go back in time, do that sooner, get a great bookkeeper sooner than later. But at any rate, it's really interesting. Know yourself, know your clients. It's powerful stuff.
You know what though? Even though books control your company, at the end of the day, we all have to have a set of books and a set of taxes, but we're still business owners. Like I have staff that work for me. They're great staff, but they would never, ever want to own their own business because all of the things they don't have capacity for it. They don't want to do it. So we're still business owners, and business owners are still driven and, a little chaotic, and we never have time. I mean, all of those things. We all know what those characteristics are. But I think we need to remember we still sit in that place, and we still have to follow the rules of being an entrepreneur. And that is, you shouldn't be that far in the trenches in your business. But the other thing you said too, if I was that person, if I was, clicking away every day and doing the thing I need to do with the accounting software, then I couldn't offer my clients vision and, have you thought about this? And did you look at that? And you have to keep your brain in that creative space to be a business owner, quite frankly.
That's right. Yeah, you're going to get two outcomes, right?
Yeah.
And that's figuring it out for yourself. If you're clicking away on the books every day and sticking to that, there's things that aren't going to happen in your business. And so it's figuring out what you like and what drives you. And if you want to scale your business, then you got to figure it out. Everybody has to be built the same way, but certain people are going to have an easier way in certain areas of their business, growth, compliance or, organization and systems and process, everyone's going to have a superpower, and they're going to have, the kryptonite where it's not their superpower and it takes away from their superpower. It's figuring that out early, hopefully early. And guess what? Sometimes it's great to not do it early because you learn really well.
Yeah.
You get those learnings, those deep, deep, deep learnings that help you down the track with something else if you don't do it early enough or figure it out early enough.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Interesting little aside there with your own experience in growing one of your businesses. Now, you talked about hiring. Another aside. When you're hiring, what were some of the things that, I'd love to hear a little bit of that story. You maybe worked in a company where there's other team members and staff, but then eventually you have to hire them for yourself. What did that trajectory look like? What were some of the learnings that you went through and highs and lows?
Well, I think probably we just don't have enough time to hear about all the lessons, right? I mean, hiring HR is such a challenge. What I did, and I think because I fundamentally resonated with this, when I came out of the corporate world many, many years ago, there was one incident that I remember correctly, because I was in upper management, and I was asked to do a task which didn't resonate with me, and I thought it was very not fair to the employee, but it was a management strategy. And I remember leaving. That one incident really impacted me, and I swore when I owned a company, I would never, ever treat my people like they were just disposable. So I came out of that. When I opened my own business, I had this fundamental belief, and I didn't really know where it landed, but one of the things that I did was we put in it's the industry, right? Not everybody keeps track of time, but a lot of companies keep track of your time, billable hours. We're in that billable hour industry. And one of the first things I did when we hired was we said to people, you're an adult, right? You get paid X amount of dollars an hour. I don't care I don't care what time you come in the morning, and I don't care what time you leave in the morning. I'm not here to keep track of your time. That's you. And then it doesn't matter to me if you leave or if you have an appointment or if you're mad at your partner or quite frankly, if it's sunny outside. It doesn't matter to me. Please don't pretend you're sick because you want to get a day off or something. Just let it be. You're an adult. It's really easy. If you're not at work, you're not being paid. And that's kind of on you. And I thought, I did that initially because I really wanted people to be accountable, and I really didn't want, because I am not good at that tracking stuff. And I knew that about myself, but that really turned into a very interesting dynamic with people. When I did that, people were all of a sudden open. Like we had a girl, I'll never forget this girl. She was lovely. And she would call and say, is there anything on my desk? Can you just look? Because back in the day, we had paper in baskets in the office. And we'd say, no, there's nothing there. And she's like, okay, well, today's hammock day then. And because it would be beautiful. And, I'm in Alberta, so there's a limited time of sunny days. She's like, it's hammock day. And we'd be like, okay, see you tomorrow. That's her choice as an adult. But what was really interesting about it was that moms would come work and they'd be like, I have to get my kid to daycare at 9, 10 or something, and I have to pick them up, or I have a child's graduation, or I have whatever. And they'd be like, I'm so sorry, can I have a day? And I'd be like, it doesn't matter to me. That was a very enlightening piece. So then when I went back to the hiring part, instead of hiring, like, do you have the skill? Do you have this accounting software? Do you know what a debit or credit? I started hiring for people that had enough knowledge just to be able to work. But then I started hiring people where my style fit into their life. So that the single mom who really had a lot of responsibility, who was a great worker and contributed, but maybe she only contributed 6 hours a day one day, but 10 hours a day another day. Or the grandmother who really she'd been in this industry a long time, and she really wanted to have that flexibility with her grandkids. So we would start to hire people who had enough in the industry, but working in a place where you didn't have to do a time clock really worked for them. And I grew. I mean, at one point in time, we had 17 employees. And there were some people that really liked the structure and they wanted to be there from 8 to 4:30, Monday to Friday. But I would say 90% of the people really appreciated that flexibility. So in terms of learning, if I had the right person, it meant that I had them for a long period of time. And we had long-term employees because they couldn't get that freedom working for somewhere else. So it really gave my business a whole lot of strength. All came from this one incident where upper management told me, you need to treat this employee this way, and you need to tell them this about their salary increases, something I just didn't really believe in. And that really spawned into a great team. When I sold that company a few years ago, nobody left that I know of for 2 years, and people really stayed. And it was just such a long-term team. And some of them are still there.
Interesting. I'm curious if they still had the the culture of the freedom.
I don't know. I'm kind of curious about that myself, quite frankly. So
I'd be curious because it's unique to get that. I think this is a very personal thing for you, and it's something that is going to be different for everyone. I would bend that way as well, and it's like, I used to always joke around at a company that I worked with. It felt like I had to come to work with a diaper because I couldn't leave my desk. They're like, hey, great, get your diapers on and away you go. Yeah. And it's like, it treated everybody like children. And there was a lot of great adults there, but the culture of the organization was really not about freedom. It was shunned upon that, you've got this much time and, family doesn't matter. Your life doesn't matter. You're here.
Yeah.
And that's it. Now, fortunately, it was a great company in many other ways, but that was one thing that I didn't like. And I've never liked that. It's like people are human beings. They got things to do, more outcome driven. If you can set it up where it's more about the outcome, it's like, if you can get it done and you need to work a little harder today to get that thing done so you can take off tomorrow for hammock day, go for it. Bring the magic. Don't bring the drudgery to work. So, but not everybody's like that.
I so agree. And people have a really hard time adjusting. We used to internally laugh when we would hire people because they would be like, I have a doctor's appointment. It's like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know where you're going. I don't need to know that. I know that maybe in a lot of jobs you didn't just say, hey, listen, I'm gone for a couple hours. It was such a beautiful group. I had such a beautiful team. And, shout out if anybody picks this up on my social media that used to work with me. I got to tell you, we had 15, 16, 17 people. And I had 17 of the most beautiful humans in this industry that I think you could get. And they were amazing and loyal and supporting, and yet they still got the job done. It was shocking to me how changing a culture that actually came from, a little bit of trauma from this management incident, but just that culture of treating people like, yeah, you got to work, pay your mortgage, but at the end of the day, it's just a job, right?
That's right.
Your family's got to come first. Happy people make happy workers, I guess.
That's right. And also you found the people that fit in that box, not the other way around. Not everybody can fit in that box. Right. Not everybody's going to, there's going to be consequences, going to be things, and hopefully you do a good job of fitting the right people into that culture, because there are people who would take advantage of those situations and all that good stuff, or not be good at the job, or whatever the case may be. And that's fine. It's finding the right people, but if you can figure that out, it saves you a lot of time when you have people coming to work happy and want to stay there and not looking for a job or what's better around the other corner. That's a great culture to have. And people are, the what do you call those, window shopping all the time. It's like, even so, if you're not creating that stickiness to your organization, they can, maybe not in the bookkeeping industry. It's not, you can walk across the street and find a job tomorrow. You probably could actually, but in this industry, it's everybody needs people, right?
Yeah.
But the point being is, you want people to stay. You want them to be happy there, and create that but it takes a certain type of person and then figuring it out. There's pros and cons to everything.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a fantastic conversation with Lynn? Now, in part 2, she dives into pricing models, client expectations, and the future of bookkeeping, from hourly versus packages to building a business that truly works for you. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.